The autumn wind rattled the old windows of Fairmont University Library as Emily Parker adjusted her cardigan, scanning the dimly lit stacks. The smell of aging paper and polished wood always calmed her, but tonight something felt off. Perhaps it was the unusual silence. Normally, students lingered late into the evening, whispering over textbooks and laptops. Tonight, only the hum of the overhead lights broke the stillness. Emily's eyes flicked to the surveillance monitors behind the circulation desk. Everything seemed normal, until a shadow moved in the far aisle. She blinked. Nothing. Must be a trick of the light, she thought. Meanwhile, Liam Collins, a third-year history major, hunched over a table near the archives, scribbling notes furiously. His curiosity had led him to the restricted section, a place students weren't supposed to explore without permission. He loved mysteries, both in books and, lately, in life. "Late night, Liam?" Emily's voice startled him. He looked up, almost dropping his pencil. Yeah, just finishing a paper," he stammered, sheepishly closing his notebook. "Didn't mean to creep anyone out." Emily forced a smile. "Just, be careful in the archives. It's easy to get lost back there." Down the hallway, the rhythmic footsteps of Detective Alex Harper echoed as he made his way to the library. He wasn't supposed to be here yet, but a tip about unusual activity had pulled him from his office early. With his trench coat flapping and notebook in hand, he projected calm authority, though his mind was already racing through potential scenarios. As the clock struck 10, a muffled crash shattered the quiet. Both Emily and Liam froze. Books tumbled from a nearby shelf, pages fluttering like startled birds. The lights flickered. "What was that?" Liam whispered. Emily's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her phone. I don't know. Stay here." From the corner of the library, a door creaked open. And then, a scream. Short, sharp, and utterly human. Liam and Emily exchanged a terrified glance. Detective Harper rounded the corner just in time to see a figure collapse to the floor, a dark stain spreading across the polished wood. Students' whispers from outside were gone. The library, once a haven of knowledge, had become a chamber of secrets. Harper crouched beside the body, eyes scanning every detail. "No one saw anything?" he asked, his voice low, tense. Emily shook her head. "No, no one. It's like it just happened out of nowhere." Harper stood and glanced at the surveillance monitors. And there it was, a flicker of movement, something that should not have been there. A shadow, gliding past shelves, unseen by any of the witnesses. A chill ran down Harper's spine. "This isn't going to be an ordinary investigation," he muttered. Outside, the autumn wind whispered through the campus trees, as if warning that the library's secrets were only beginning to unravel. Detective Alex Harper stayed crouched beside the lifeless figure, eyes sharp, mind working through possibilities. The victim, a young graduate student, had been researching rare manuscripts in the restricted section. No signs of struggle. No witnesses. Just death. Emily Parker's hands shook as she recounted the moments before the scream. "I was shelving books near the history aisle. I didn't see anyone suspicious, and then, it just happened." Harper nodded, scribbling notes in his leather-bound notebook. "You heard nothing? No footsteps, no voices?" Emily shook her head. "Nothing. It's impossible." From across the library, Liam Collins couldn't hide his curiosity. "Detective, maybe the cameras saw something?" he asked, edging closer. Harper glanced at him sharply. "Maybe. Or maybe they didn't. Stay back, kid. This isn't a show." He walked to the surveillance monitors with Emily following, her anxiety barely contained. The feed from the restricted section flickered as if struggling to keep pace with reality. And then Harper froze. "There," he muttered, pointing. A dark blur moved across the aisle, too fluid, too deliberate. Not like any human stride. Emily's eyes widened. "That's impossible, that's not any student I've seen," she whispered. Harper leaned closer. Exactly. And it's not a reflection, either. That shadow, it's something else. Something planned. Meanwhile, outside the restricted area, Professor Daniel Whitman arrived. Tall, imposing, with graying hair and a calm, practiced demeanor, he carried a leather satchel of papers. Seeing the detective, he straightened. "Detective Harper," he said smoothly. "I heard about the incident." "How tragic." Harper glanced up, noting Whitman's carefully measured expression. "Professor. Was anyone in the restricted section after hours?" Whitman shook his head. "Not to my knowledge. I left the library hours ago." "I assure you, my research is always meticulous." "Right," Harper muttered, noting the slight twitch in Whitman's left eye. "We'll see. I'll need access to the archives and your notes." As Harper made arrangements to secure the library, Liam leaned toward Emily. "Do you think someone could have planned this? Like, they knew no one would see them?" Emily swallowed hard. I don't know. But that shadow on the camera, it wasn't normal. Something's very wrong here." Detective Harper stood in the center of the library, eyes sweeping the quiet, towering shelves. He didn't know who, or what, was behind this. But one thing was certain, the library had become a puzzle. And he was determined to solve it. Outside, the wind rustled through the campus, carrying a warning through the autumn night. Someone, or something, was still moving in the shadows. The next morning, Fairmont University buzzed with hushed conversations. Students speculated about the tragedy in the library, yet no one admitted seeing anything. Detective Harper returned, notebook in hand, determined to piece together the puzzle. Emily Parker met him at the entrance. Her eyes were red from sleepless hours, but she tried to keep her composure. "Detective," the security guard, Mark Reynolds, said he didn't see anyone suspicious either, she murmured. Harper nodded. "People rarely do. But the cameras tell a different story. Show me the footage again." As Emily pulled up the monitor, Harper's eyes narrowed. The same strange blur moved across the aisle. This time, it lingered near the manuscripts. He replayed it frame by frame. The movement was almost human, but not quite. It glided with an unnatural precision, as if choreographed. At that moment, Professor Whitman entered the library, adjusting his tie. "Detective, I thought it prudent to offer my assistance. Perhaps there are historical clues in the archives that could explain." Harper cut him off. "Professor, your research isn't under suspicion. Yet. But tell me, did you notice anything odd last night? Anyone lurking?" Whitman's expression remained neutral. "Nothing unusual. Though, the library can feel eerie after hours. Perhaps the stress of the semester is affecting your perception." Liam Collins, unable to contain his curiosity, piped up from behind a shelf. "Detective, maybe someone left a clue? A note? A sign?" Harper turned sharply. "And what makes you think that?" I don't know," Liam admitted. "Just a hunch. People who plan things, they sometimes leave hints." Harper considered this. "Perhaps. Keep your eyes open, but stay out of restricted areas." "Understood?" As the morning wore on, Detective Harper interviewed other library staff and a few students who had stayed late the previous evening. Everyone claimed to have seen nothing unusual, but subtle inconsistencies emerged. Small contradictions in timelines, students recalling doors opening and closing when others said they were still sealed. Emily handed Harper a set of access logs. All entry and exit records match, except for one. Her finger pointed to a time stamp just before the scream. "There's an entry logged for someone, but no one remembers seeing them." Harper leaned back, rubbing his temple. "So we have an unaccounted presence, a mysterious shadow, and no witnesses. Perfect." He sighed, glancing at Emily and Liam. "This killer, or whatever it is, planned this carefully. And I intend to find out how." Outside, the autumn wind rattled the library windows, carrying with it an uneasy promise. Someone was watching. Someone knew the library's secrets. And Detective Harper was determined to expose them. By late afternoon, the library was cordoned off. Yellow tape flapped in the crisp autumn wind outside, a stark contrast to the calm interior. Detective Harper moved through the stacks with methodical precision, eyes scanning every shadow, every shelf. Emily walked beside him, her hands clasped tightly. "Detective. I keep thinking about that shadow on the cameras. It doesn't look human." Harper gave a tight nod. "We'll see soon enough. Shadows can be tricky, but people leave traces." At that moment, security guard Mark Reynolds approached, his expression tense. "Detective, I found this," he said, handing over a small, folded piece of paper. The edges were frayed, and the ink slightly smudged. Harper unfolded it carefully. "You're getting too close. Stop now." Harper's eyes narrowed. "Someone's watching, and they know I'm investigating." "Good." He glanced at Emily. "That's a warning, not a threat. Yet." Meanwhile, Professor Whitman lingered near the reading tables, ostensibly reviewing his notes. Harper noticed the subtle twitch of his fingers and the way his eyes darted toward the monitors. There was something in Whitman's calm exterior that didn't fit. "Professor," Harper said, walking over, "your schedule last night, can anyone verify it?" Whitman hesitated for a heartbeat, then straightened. "I was here alone, working. I left the library before 10. Harper's lips pressed into a thin line. "Alone, according to whom?" Whitman's jaw tightened. "I'm afraid no one saw me. It's a quiet building, Detective." Liam, ever curious, hovered nearby. "Detective, what if it's not just one person? Maybe someone set this up, or it's a group." Harper considered it. "Possible. But someone planned this meticulously. Whoever it is, they know the building better than we do." As the hours passed, Harper interviewed more staff and a few students who had been in the library during late hours. Contradictions emerged. A janitor claimed he saw a figure near the archives at 9:30, while a student insisted that aisle had been empty. Everyone was certain they hadn't witnessed anything unusual, but the records, the footage, and that mysterious note told another story. Emily shivered, glancing at the tall, looming shelves. "Detective, the library, it feels alive. Like it's hiding something from us." Harper gave her a small, grim smile. "Maybe it is. And that's why we'll find the killer before they strike again." Outside, the autumn dusk deepened. The library windows reflected the flickering streetlights, shadows stretching like long fingers across the campus lawn. Detective Harper knew one thing with certainty: the first suspects were now in plain view, and each of them carried secrets worth discovering. The next morning, Detective Harper returned to the library with renewed focus. The autumn sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting long shadows over the rows of books. Despite the daylight, the library felt oppressive, as though it remembered the previous night's terror. Emily met him at the entrance, holding a small USB drive. "Detective. I downloaded the raw footage from all cameras. There's something odd on the archive feed." Harper took it without a word, inserting it into his laptop. The screen flickered, and there it was again, the shadow. But this time, the movement was different. It paused near a shelf, then vanished. No footsteps, no sound, nothing. Harper's jaw tightened. Whoever, or whatever, was behind this knew the camera's blind spots intimately. "Someone spent hours studying this place," Harper muttered. He scribbled notes furiously. "It's not random. Every movement, every timing, it's calculated." At that moment, Liam Collins peeked around the corner. "Detective. I think I found something too." He held up a crumpled page, torn from a notebook. The handwriting was hurried but legible. "They watched too closely. You can't hide among the stacks." Harper read it silently, eyes narrowing. Another message. "Our killer is toying with us. He looked at Emily. Did anyone recognize this handwriting? Emily shook her head. No, it doesn't match any students or staff I know. Before Harper could respond, Professor Whitman appeared, his expression unreadable. Detective, I hope the investigation is progressing. The campus is uneasy. Professor, any chance someone could have entered the restricted section without leaving a trace? Harper asked, eyes locked on Whitman. Whitman hesitated. Detective. I suppose anything's possible if someone is clever enough. But that's mere speculation. Harper's gaze sharpened. Speculation? Or experience? Whitman's lips pressed into a thin line. Detective. I assure you, my only concern is preserving knowledge. Nothing else. Harper nodded slowly, noting the subtle defensiveness. There was something in Whitman's composure that didn't sit right. Meanwhile, Emily led Harper to the rare manuscripts room. Look here, she said, pointing to a faint scuff on the polished floor. I noticed it this morning. It wasn't here yesterday. Harper crouched, inspecting the mark. Someone carried something heavy, or moved deliberately in a very specific path. He traced the scuff with his pen. Combined with the shadows on camera and these messages, our suspect is confident, meticulous, and knows the library better than anyone. Outside, the wind rattled the library windows, carrying the scent of dry leaves and danger. Harper glanced around the room, feeling a chill. Emily. Liam, someone is still in the library. They've left us clues intentionally. And they want to be found. But not yet. Not completely. The detective closed his notebook, eyes sweeping the towering shelves. This is no ordinary crime. Whoever did this is clever, patient, and playing a game we didn't know we were in. By evening, the library felt like a labyrinth of whispers and shadows. Detective Harper moved silently between the aisles, notebook in hand, mentally retracing every step from the previous night. Every creak of the floor, every flutter of a page made him tense. Emily followed closely, her breathing shallow. Detective. I keep imagining the shadow moving between the shelves. Even now, it feels like it's here. Harper's eyes scanned the corners. Fear can play tricks, Emily. But you're right, something, or someone, is still moving among us. Liam Collins appeared from behind the archives. Detective, I overheard two students talking. They said someone saw a professor near the archives late last night, someone not on the official logs. Harper's pen paused mid-note. Which professor? Liam hesitated. They didn't say. Just, a tall man, hair turning gray. Harper's gaze swept to Professor Whitman, who was quietly reading at the edge of the room. The pieces were beginning to line up. His late-night presence, evasive answers, subtle defensiveness. Professor Whitman, Harper called, stepping closer, can you explain these claims of someone seeing a tall man near the archives last night? Whitman looked up slowly, eyes steady. Detective, you're grasping at shadows. I left well before 10. Anyone claiming otherwise is mistaken. Harper's lips pressed tightly. Or lying. Meanwhile, Emily handed Harper a small envelope she had found wedged between the rare manuscripts. Inside was a single, typed message. You're closer than you think. The library watches as we play. Harper's fingers tightened around the paper. They know we're investigating. They're confident, and they want us to feel powerless. A sudden noise made everyone jump. A book slid off a high shelf, landing with a thud. Harper crouched immediately, scanning the shadows. Nothing moved, yet the unease lingered like a thick fog. Emily whispered, trembling, Detective. Do you think it's someone from the university? Or, something else? Harper's gaze hardened. Someone human. Clever, patient, and dangerously meticulous. But they're hiding in plain sight. And if we don't catch them soon, they'll strike again. Outside, the night deepened, the autumn wind carrying faint rustles through the campus. The library stood silent, yet alive with secrets and dangers. Detective Harper knew the hunt was only beginning. And the closer he got, the more dangerous the game would become. The following morning, the library hummed with a tense normalcy. Students whispered cautiously, as if fearing the walls themselves might betray them. Detective Harper paced between the stacks, reviewing his notes, trying to connect the pieces that refused to fit. Emily approached, holding a folder. "Detective. I checked the access logs again. There's a discrepancy in one of the student ID scans. Liam's friend, Rachel, was marked as entering the library late last night, but she insists she was at home." Harper raised an eyebrow. People lie, or someone is manipulating the system. Either way, it's significant. Liam, unable to stay quiet, blurted out, "Detective, what if someone used a fake ID? Someone could have been walking among us all along, pretending to be a student." Harper considered it. Possible. And if that's the case, the person has access and knowledge of the building's routines. Clever, patient, someone who's comfortable in shadows. At that moment, Professor Whitman entered the reading room with his usual calm demeanor. "Detective, I hope your investigation isn't causing undue panic. The students are already on edge." Harper's eyes sharpened. "Professor, you've been seen near the archives during the critical time frame. Care to explain?" Whitman's expression remained neutral, but Harper caught the flicker of tension in his eyes. "I was simply reviewing some notes. Alone. As I've stated before." Outside the restricted section, Emily pointed to another anomaly. "Detective, someone tampered with the book return slot. I found a drawer slightly ajar, and some papers missing." Harper knelt, inspecting the slot. "Our killer, or accomplice, has been moving undetected. They're not just clever, they're confident." He turned to Liam. "You mentioned Rachel. Get her here. We need to know who she was in contact with yesterday." Minutes later, Rachel arrived, nervous but cooperative. She insisted she had never left her dorm, but her ID scan suggested otherwise. "I don't understand. I never entered the library," she said, trembling. Harper scribbled a note. "Either someone is using your credentials, or you're lying. And one of those options leads us closer to the killer." Emily shivered. "Detective, the library, it's like it's alive. It keeps secrets, but it doesn't forgive mistakes." Harper glanced at the towering shelves, shadows stretching across the polished floor. "And that's why we'll find them. Whoever did this is clever, patient, and thinks they're untouchable. But every shadow leaves a trace. And I intend to follow it." As dusk fell, the library remained silent, yet the echoes of deception and hidden movements hung thick in the air. Harper knew the net was tightening, and the killer was watching every move. The library was nearly empty, save for Harper, Emily, and Liam, who insisted on staying close despite the warnings. The autumn sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving long shadows that stretched across the polished floors. Harper's mind raced, connecting threads that seemed unrelated at first. Emily whispered, "Detective. I think I found something else." She handed him a small, folded piece of paper, almost invisible in the dim light. Written in neat, deliberate handwriting were coordinates and a time. "Midnight. 3rd floor. Alone." Harper's brow furrowed. "This isn't random. Someone wants us to follow a trail, or test us." He glanced at Emily. "You're staying away from that floor tonight." Liam's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Detective, what if it's a trap?" Harper's lips pressed tightly. "Exactly. That's why we prepare." He turned his attention to the monitors again, replaying the footage from last night. The shadow appeared once more near the 3rd floor stacks, moving deliberately but leaving no footprints, no disturbance, except for subtle shifts in the light, almost like it was aware of the cameras. Just then, a soft beeping drew their attention. Harper walked over to the library security console. "What's this?" He studied the screen. Several restricted access doors had been opened remotely. "Someone has access codes," and they're testing our response. Emily swallowed hard. Detective, could it be Professor Whitman? Harper's gaze narrowed. Possible. But it could also be someone else, someone with the same access. Either way, they're bold and meticulous. Minutes later, Harper discovered a faint smudge along the railing of the third-floor staircase. A fingerprint, he muttered. He carefully bagged it. It's a clue, however small. Every trace matters. As they prepared to leave, the library lights flickered, plunging the room into near darkness. Emily's hand gripped Harper's arm. Detective, someone's here. Harper moved silently toward the source, flashlight cutting through the shadows. Nothing, but the chill in the air suggested they were being watched. Outside, the autumn wind rattled the windows, carrying the scent of dry leaves and a quiet threat. Harper stood in the center of the library, notebook in hand, determined. Whoever was orchestrating this, they were clever, patient, and daring. But Harper was not about to let the game continue unchecked. He whispered under his breath, "We're closer than ever, and they know it." Night had fully settled over Fairmont University. The library, once a sanctuary of knowledge, now felt like a cage of shadows. Detective Harper, flashlight in hand, moved carefully through the aisles, noting every subtle sound. Emily whispered from behind him, "Detective, it's so quiet." Too quiet. Harper didn't answer. His attention was drawn to a small, overlooked corner near the rare manuscripts. There, a tiny motion sensor had captured something previously unnoticed, a brief shimmer, almost imperceptible, near the floor. Harper crouched. A hidden camera, or a reflective surface? Liam peeked over his shoulder. "Detective, someone's trying to communicate with us. Or mislead us." Harper nodded. "Exactly. And we need to figure out which." At that moment, Professor Whitman appeared at the top of the staircase, calm but deliberate. "Detective Harper. I see you're investigating diligently." Harper's gaze sharpened. "Professor, can you explain the discrepancies in the access logs and why several restricted doors were remotely opened last night?" Whitman's lips pressed tightly. "Detective. I have no idea what you mean. Perhaps a student is behind this, playing a foolish prank." Harper narrowed his eyes. "Or perhaps someone with intimate knowledge of the building and its routines. Someone who can manipulate cameras, doors, and logs without leaving a trace." Suddenly, the library lights flickered violently, then stabilized. A low hum filled the room. Emily gasped. "Detective, it's like the library itself is reacting." Harper's mind raced. He reviewed the earlier footage again. There, the shadow near the rare manuscripts, lingering longer than before, almost as if observing them. And then, unexpectedly, a hand appeared in the frame, delicate, deliberate, familiar. Harper froze. "I've seen that hand before." Liam tilted his head. "Whose?" Harper's voice was low, tense. "Professor Whitman's assistant. Jenna Lopez. She has access to everything, the cameras, the logs, the doors. And she's been quiet all along, observing." "Too quiet." Emily's eyes widened. "You think she?" Harper nodded grimly. "I'm not certain yet. But everything points to someone with technical skill, access, and patience. And Jenna fits that profile perfectly." Outside, the wind rattled the library windows, carrying the whispers of secrets long kept. Detective Harper knew one thing with certainty: the final confrontation was near, and the truth, when revealed, would shock everyone. The library was eerily silent as midnight approached. Detective Harper moved methodically between the tall shelves, flashlight cutting through the shadows. Emily and Liam followed at a safe distance, their nerves taut. Harper whispered, "The shadow we've been tracking, it's not random. They're leading us." Suddenly, a soft click echoed from the restricted section. Harper signaled for silence and advanced cautiously. A figure stepped into the dim light. It was Jenna Lopez. Calm, composed, but with a gleam of something dangerous in her eyes. "Detective Harper," she said smoothly. "I wondered when you'd figure it out." Harper's voice was steady, controlled. "Jenna, the shadow, the messages, the tampered doors, all of it leads to you." "Why?" Jenna smiled faintly. "Why? Knowledge is power, detective. And some secrets are too valuable to remain hidden. The library, it deserved my protection." Emily gasped. "Protection? You killed someone?" Jenna's eyes hardened. "One life. To save countless others from ignorance. You think you understand control, order, but you haven't seen the chaos of mismanaged knowledge." Harper's jaw tightened. "That's not your decision to make. You crossed a line. You murdered to play a game, manipulating cameras and doors like a puppet master." Jenna stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "And yet, here you are. Observing, deducing. I underestimated you." Harper glanced around, noting the library's shadows, the aisles, the reflective surfaces. "You've been meticulous, but not perfect. Every movement leaves a trace. Every shadow betrays a flicker of intention. And that's how we caught you." For a moment, Jenna hesitated, then smirked. "Perhaps, you're right. But tell me, detective, how many shadows will you chase tonight before realizing the library has more secrets than you can uncover?" Harper's voice was calm, unwavering. "One is enough. And yours ends here." He signaled to Emily and Liam, and the police, already alerted, moved swiftly. Jenna's composure faltered as she realized the net had closed. The tools of her deception, cameras, access codes, shadows, had betrayed her. Outside, the autumn wind carried the first hints of dawn through the library windows. Detective Harper surveyed the quiet room. The danger had passed, but the library's secrets remained, etched into its walls and shadows. Emily exhaled, relief washing over her. "It's over, isn't it?" Harper nodded slowly. "For now. But remember, knowledge is powerful, and some people will go to great lengths to control it. Tonight, we stopped one. Tomorrow, who knows?" The library returned to its silence, shelves standing tall like sentinels. But beneath that calm, the echoes of secrets lingered, whispering warnings to anyone who dared to uncover them. The first light of dawn spilled through the library windows, casting long, golden beams across the polished floors. The night's terror had passed, but the quiet hall seemed to hum with the memory of what had occurred. Detective Harper walked slowly, observing the rows of shelves. Each aisle felt like a witness, holding the stories of countless students and faculty. Jenna Lopez had been taken into custody, and the police were cataloging the evidence she had left behind. Emily Parker leaned against a table, exhausted but relieved. "Detective, it's finally over, isn't it?" Harper shook his head slightly, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Over? For now. But the library, it keeps secrets. Someone else, someday, might stumble onto them." Liam Collins wandered over, still processing the night's events. "Detective. I never imagined someone could manipulate a place like this so completely. How did you figure it out?" Harper's eyes scanned the shadows. "Every action leaves a trace, Liam. Every shadow, every misstep, even a genius leaves something behind. We just had to follow the clues patiently." Outside, campus life was slowly returning to normal. Students filed into the library, unaware of the previous night's dangers. But for Harper, Emily, and Liam, the quiet stacks were a reminder of how easily knowledge could be twisted into power, and how dangerous it could be in the wrong hands. Professor Whitman appeared, his expression a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Detective Harper. I appreciate your diligence. The library will need time to heal from this." Harper nodded. "Libraries are resilient. People, sometimes aren't." He glanced at the sun rising over the campus, the warm light softening the shadows. Emily turned to Harper. "Do you think it's really over? Or is there always someone else waiting in the shadows?" Harper's gaze was steady, calm. There are always shadows, Emily. But we learn to navigate them. And sometimes, we find the truth. As they left the library, the autumn wind rustled through the campus trees, carrying with it the whisper of secrets, knowledge, and vigilance. The library, once again, returned to its quiet watch over the students, silent yet alive, its shadows no longer threatening, but a reminder of the fine line between knowledge and power. Detective Harper paused at the door, glancing back. One lesson, everyone, pay attention. Shadows tell stories. And if you listen, you might just survive them. With that, the trio walked into the morning light, leaving the library, and its secrets, behind. Weeks had passed since the arrest of Jenna Lopez, but the atmosphere at Fairmont University had subtly shifted. The library, once a haven of quiet study, now seemed alive with an almost sentient awareness, its shelves and shadows holding memories of recent events. Detective Harper returned one afternoon, this time without urgency, merely to check that all was secure. Emily and Liam accompanied him, curious to see the library in daylight, now calm and orderly. Emily whispered, "It feels different, peaceful, yet heavy." Harper nodded. "That's because knowledge remembers. Libraries don't forget. And some shadows linger longer than others." As they walked through the aisles, Harper noticed small, subtle irregularities, a book slightly out of place, a faint scuff on the floor, the faint hum of old wiring, echoes of past disturbances. He knew it was impossible to erase all traces of what had occurred. Professor Whitman approached, looking more at ease than before. "Detective, the library is functioning normally again. But, the students are wary." Harper's gaze swept the room. And rightly so. Events like this leave marks, not only on walls, but on minds. But it's also a lesson: vigilance, patience, and observation matter. Liam, still fascinated, asked, "Do you think there could be someone else? Another shadow, waiting?" Harper smiled faintly, a mixture of seriousness and warmth. "Perhaps. Shadows never truly fade. But people learn to navigate them. That's the difference." Emily looked around, her eyes catching the sunlight on the shelves. "I understand now, the library isn't just books. It's history, secrets, and a warning." Harper's voice was calm, almost reflective. "Exactly. And those who respect it, survive. Those who misuse it, won't be as fortunate." As they exited the library, the wind rustled through the autumn leaves, carrying the lingering whispers of knowledge and shadows. Harper paused at the doorway, glancing back one last time. "Remember this," he said softly, "every shadow tells a story. Some are harmless, some deadly. But if you watch closely, you'll see the truth hidden within." The trio walked away, the library standing silent behind them. Its secrets intact, its shadows deep, and its lessons unforgettable. For Detective Harper, Emily, and Liam, the case was closed, but the memory of the library's dark night would remain forever, a testament to the fine line between curiosity and danger.